Okay, I'm not a regular YouTuber. I don't regularly post, but I just felt like I need to speak on this as a black woman, and I just need to lend my voice to this conversation because I feel like a lot of things are going on, a lot of things are being said about this movie, Cuties, Les Mignonnes, or whatever. Um, I'm going to title this video a missed opportunity because I really feel like this was a missed opportunity. Because I really think that this woman had a great intention and that she made a lot of mistakes in this movie. And no movie is perfect, but I felt like this movie had a lot of mistakes in it that I just want to talk about because there's so many good things in the movie that are being lost. I feel like I was literally just in a little comment section replying to someone saying like, no, that's not what the movie is about. Did you actually watch it? Because I think like the best parts of her movie, the most impactful parts of her movie for me, when I watched it as a black American woman, never living in Europe, never being from Senegal and immigrating to another country, you know, that's the story that really captivated me as part of this movie. But I felt like there's so much going on in the movie that distracted from that, and that's what I want to talk about. So, this is the directorial debut of the woman. I can't pronounce her name, so we're just going to move right on. And I just feel like she defeats her own point. I already said that. But the core of the story is about this young girl, part of an immigrant family from Senegal, who moves to France. And you know, it talks about how she has like a lot of cultural differences and she's trying to navigate these things as a young girl. I think it's a really excellent, captivating story. That part of the story I found really captivating. I don't want to spoil it, but it is worth watching for those parts, in my opinion. Now, she has a lot of cultural differences with the like Paris. I don't want to say Parisian. I don't remember where they're from. They're somewhere in France, but with the French girl she encounters, you know, these girls are basically bullies. They're not a good influence on her. They're not portrayed as being like really great, positive young girls. So when they start introducing all of the sexual stuff later, keep in mind that these girls are not seen as like the sweet, nice girls that are like being friendly to the new immigrant girl. Like, so they're not trying to positively portray the sexuality because the girls who are purveying the sexuality, they're not positively portrayed either. And let's just talk about that portrayal of the girls. They're basically bullies. This teen girl group, preteen girls, they're basically bullies. They're basically bullies. The movie is full of the like fickleness and the casual cruelty that like movies always like to project onto teenage girl friendships or preteen girl friendships. It's always about being sexual and competing with each other and all that kind of stuff. And I think that was one thing that also bothered me in the movie. It's like it's such a stereotype that like when girls are friends in the ages between like 10 and 18, they're always like nasty little bullies to each other. And I'm just like, I think that we have conflict with each other as young girls, but like a lot of times we do just get along and are friends, but that's never like, it rarely makes it onto the screen unless it's directly a story for children. And I think that's a little frustrating. But I think that also is part of the syndrome of this is like an indie movie and everything in an indie movie has to be serious. If anything is kind of too down to earth, too likable, then it just is like, that's a TV movie. You know what I mean? Like an indie movie has to be edgy. You have to put a fine point edge on everything, you know? And I think with this friend group, she starts doing the dancing, etc. Now, my whole thing about young girls and sexuality is this. When young girls are like, oh, I want to imitate what I see on the screen, and then we talk about that, we're like, oh, it's so horrible. But it's like, they're trying to understand something and explore something that they don't fully grasp yet. And I saw this really great thing on Instagram, but I'm filming on my phone, so not gonna talk about that, I guess. Anyway, so they're trying to explore what being grown up means, and she talks about this and references the girls' dialogue a lot. Like people, the young girl from Senegal is like, we're 11. And they're like, no, we're not. We're not 11. We're 14. Because they were talking to older boys. And it's just representing that kind of phenomena. When you are younger, you do want to pretend like you're older. When you're younger, you do want to be like, no, I'm not a kid. I'm a teen. I'm cool. I'm almost a grown-up. And so they're trying to be grown up. That's what she was trying to portray in this movie. Girls who are growing up too fast. That's what she's trying to portray. But like the way she chose to film it, and this is where she makes the fatal mistake and the fatal flaw. It's the way she films the girls. She's like, okay, so you have young girls imitating what they see in a music video. So you film the young girls as if they are grown women in a music video with the close-up shots and the gyrating and the legs split open and the everything, multiple scenes of it. And then when you have these scenes juxtaposed to scenes of like, oh, the girls are like looking at, inappropriate adult content, right? And they're talking about it and they're like, oh my gosh, look at what's going on. Like, do y'all not remember being in middle school and high school? Kids used to talk about, first of all, our generation grew up when YouTube was new. I remember sitting on the bus in middle school, because 11 is middle school age. In middle school, people talking about Two Girls, One Cup, whatever they saw on MTV, all kind of stuff. Straight up PORN. I remember people talking about that. That doesn't mean that that was appropriate. It means that she's reflecting what's really going on. She's not trying to say that this is a good thing. She's saying this is what's happening. What is our reaction going to be to what is happening? But then she makes that fatal flaw of like, you do that and then you turn around and have the girl's booty popping and you're closing up on the booty. And it's like, people are creeped out. And it's like, okay, we get like if a woman wants to go and be a dancer in a video and have someone close up on her behind for a paycheck, that's one thing. But to close up on a teenage girl or a preteen girl doing that, that's a different thing. Like, and another thing is, when that woman takes that job, she's making entertainment that's supposed to be for people her age. She's making entertainment as a booty popping video girl for grown people who should be watching. I feel like it definitely takes a village, and I get that. But at the same time, media is not a babysitter. Media is not a third parent. You have to curate your own child's media. And if something is not appropriate for children, we need to be making that distinction inside of homes. We don't need to be kind of putting out all of this judgmental kind of rhetoric that's like, oh, that's why everything is going wrong with these young girls. And it's like, come on now. And another thing I want to mention is, my mom works in a middle school, and middle schoolers are doing it. Middle schoolers are having sex. And I'm just like, they're finding condoms and all kind of stuff in the bathroom, and things are happening. First of all, when I was in 8th grade, and I know this is more older on the older side of middle school, but I was still in middle school. There was a girl in my grade who had gotten pregnant and had an abortion. And everybody knew about it. There's rumors everywhere. Everybody talked about it. She was out of school for 3 days and came back. And everybody knew. First of all, another thing I want to mention from mentioning anecdotes, I had a classmate. We were 12 years old in 7th grade. And she was seeing someone who was literally in high school. He was like 15 or 16. And she went on a date with him to the movie theaters, and she performed whatever act on this boy in a movie theater. Now, she performed this act, and she decided to tell everyone. She decided. You know why? Because she's young, she's making a silly, dumb mistake, and she is trying to prove something. She's trying to prove, like, I'm experienced. I'm going out on dates with older boys, and I'm doing XYZ, and I have this experience. and I'm not a little kid anymore. That's what she's trying to portray in the movie. That these young girls are choosing to do things that are maybe not good decisions. Maybe not good decisions. Maybe don't reflect well on them and their family. But they're trying to do these things because that's what they think in their mind makes them a young adult. So then we have a whole bunch of adults watching it and going, ah! This is crazy! And I get that, and I agree with, I don't like how it was filmed. I think a lot of the people who are reacting haven't seen the movie. But the next thing I want to talk about is there are people that I like on YouTube right now. There's this girl called Creepshow Art. I forget what her real name is. And there's different people making videos like, it's so much worse. It's so much worse. It's so terrible. You don't learn anything from this movie. It's so bad. But I want to say to Creepshow Art, because I know that she's been through some personal trauma. And I'm like, I think that with your personal trauma, you aren't seeing the full picture of what she was trying to do. I really think that she was trying to do something positive with this. I really don't see this as being like, oh, I'm just going to gratuitously make this for my own enjoyment. But she defeats her own point by all of the, like I said, the close-up and the dancing. And like, when people are like, oh, the girls are being so sexual and they're pushing each other to be sexual, there's so many scenes of the young girls being sexual. It's like, because like do you not remember being in middle school? This is what happens. Like I don't want to say like, oh, I'm not like other girls, I didn't do any of that stuff, but I did it. I was like a square, I like to read and blah 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 blah. I was like, I wasn't worried about being sexual and cool because I was a square and I already knew that. But like, do we really not remember how people used to make raunchy jokes? People used to repeat everything they heard on South Park, which is a lot of inappropriate stuff. So I want people to kind of calm down, stop, take a breath, and kind of look at different perspectives before they start lambasting this movie as so much worse than I even thought it was. And I just don't think there's so many parts of it where the girls are trying to be like this and trying to be like that and being very sexual, and it makes you uncomfortable. But the only part of it that I felt like was gratuitous and didn't reflect anything that I lived through when I was a young girl, what I felt didn't reflect my lived experience was like the close-ups and like the legs split open and all that stuff. Because young girls, like, even think of Mean Girls, when they were teens, they did like that little Christmas dance routine. And we all think it's like a laugh now. It's like bawdy and ridiculous and it's like a laugh. But that scene, it's like supposed to be like, that whole portrayal in that movie was supposed to be like, oh, it's funny and over the top, but it's also like it's supposed to be like a keen perspective on these young girls are kind of, acting a little bit too grown, doing the most. And like when they're doing their little dance and they're like, and they're like, but like that's inappropriate. And it's supposed to be funny because it's so inappropriate. But like she didn't like close up on their crotches when they were doing it. And the girls were wearing like big fluffy A-line skirts. Whereas in this movie, they're wearing like little tiny hot pants, etc. And I think that she's basing this off of something that she's seen. But I also think like there's like an editorialness to it. I think like she's adding a little bit. I think she's kind of adding it a little bit to be a little bit. I think she did do like the costumes and stuff like that to kind of push the boundaries a little bit and make people feel more uncomfortable. And this is why people don't like indie movies. And that's that's the truth. This is why people don't like indie movies, because they don't just show you something. They like have to play it up to the max. They have to play it up to the max to really drive their point across, and then like they lose people because they're doing too much. And I felt like that's what she was doing in this movie. She was doing too much. When she was trying to push it so hard. And I think it's ironic because I think a lot of conservative people are really angry about this movie. And this is pedophilia. They're trying to normalize child porn. And I think that she's actually coming from kind of a conservative perspective. And then you're going to be like, how? Because I think she's trying to demonize it a little bit. Like, she's trying to demonize the girls booty popping a little bit. Like if you're with your friends and you're dancing inappropriately with a bunch of other 11-year-olds, that's not a big deal. Like, if she had just made this movie and the girls were just dancing in their room together and like wearing like normal preteen clothes instead of midriff tops and all this stuff, trying to look grown. Like, there was literally a scene where the main girl comes out, where Amy comes out with like a little red crop top and jeans, and like she looks 20. She looks 20. She looks 20 years old. Like, it's like ridiculous. Oh, and I think with on the same vein of she's trying to push too many boundaries with it, she kind of has a simple-minded view in some things. Like, she kind of wants to add a commentary about social media, but then it's like a simple-minded commentary. It's like, social media is making girls overtly sexual and crazy. The end. Like, that's her whole commentary. That's your whole commentary? Like, and like, it's like, she's like, portrays it in the movie very quickly, like, oh, I'm a young girl and I'm looking at this. The girls who are overtly sexual get likes, so that's what we're gonna do. Like, she just very quickly goes from A to Z. She's like, okay, sexuality equals likes. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the extreme when putting together this dance routine, and I'm gonna really come out here like I'm a 22-year-old pussycat doll in 2017 and put my leg way up in the air and all this stuff. I'm like, come on now. And how would 11-year-olds really choreograph this and put this whole thing together? But she says she saw it. I believe she saw something like it, but I do think she set it up to push the narrative a little further. And I want to say another thing. When this is why I think that her commentary on social media is simple-minded, or too simplistic. I don't want to call her simple-minded, because I think that she's just this is her directorial debut. This is her first feature-length film. So we have to take that into account. But I also want to say, like, she does not show a full picture of social media. Literally, a black girl earlier this year went viral for creating the Renegade dance. And it's not a sexual dance. There's a lot of teens and preteens dancing on social media, and it doesn't have to be very sexual. Like, and even when they are, this is my next thing. When a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old gets online and decides to make these videos, they're making it for other 17-year-olds. They're like, a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old is not getting dressed to be like, making some CP today. No, that's not what they're doing. They're making it for other teens. They're making it for other teens. Like, they don't care what adults think. Adults are old and creepy, and they don't care what we think. I think it's kind of simple-minded in a way, honestly. And yeah, that's it.